In this podcast, I'll be talking to Jesús Florez, an American accent coach, originally from Colombia and now living in the United States. As you'll hear in a moment, Jesús has really studied and mastered American pronunciation of English, and he now helps other learners to do the same. Of course, we are both aware that America has lots of different accents, just like Britain. So there is no single American accent, just like there is no single British accent. And we discuss some of those differences later in the podcast. This episode is a podcast rather than a video, so there won't be much to look at on the screen. That's my fault. I apologise, I messed up the recording of the video. I moved my camera at the beginning and after that it recorded the sound but not the picture. So I'm sorry about that. I'd like to say thank you to Jesús for recording this episode with me and also for his patience in waiting for me to edit it. I didn't do any YouTube work over the summer, so it has been quite a while since we recorded this. Today we are going to talk a little bit about your work as an American accent coach and also about how you learned English in the first place. I'm always really interested to hear how people started learning English, how they became fluent. Could you introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about how you learned English?
Of course, yes. Now, are you make sure that you're recording this now?
I am, yes. I will double check. Yes, it is still recording, thank you.
Okay.
That is the kind
Usually
of thing I would
there's,
do. That is exactly the kind of thing I would do. Sorry.
Okay, alright, so let me give you a usual introduction or my normal introduction. So my name is Jesús Florez, I'm 35 years old, and I live in the United States. I've been here now for 10 years. I'm originally from Colombia in South America. I went to school to become an English teacher, traditional ESL teacher. I did that for, I went to college for 5 years, and I've been here now, like I said, for a decade. Came here to marry my then fiancée. She's my wife now. We have 4 children. I got into accent and pronunciation training as a niche, probably a year and a half ago. But I still consider myself a traditional ESL teacher. I can do, let's say, what you are used to hearing when you hear that tone. Not as confidently. I feel much more in my element when it comes to pronunciation, accent training, and typically those two things are usually very closely connected with your speaking and listening abilities. So that's as far as an introduction is concerned. How would you like to, I guess, go into the learning history journey?
I'm interested in when you first started learning English. Was that in school? Is it taught in all schools in Colombia, or did you have to choose that as a subject at school?
No, basically, as it's the case with most countries in Latin America, there is a foreign language component in the school curriculum. And for the vast majority of places, it is English and it's fixed. There's no opting out of that. And so I went through a regular school system. That experience is very closely mirrored by lots of people around the world. But what I learned through the system was forgettable.
Yeah.
Nothing really special about it. I had typically the way that I tell the story is that I had a first exposure to this language when I was maybe 6, 7, perhaps 8 years old. There was a very famous movie that came out in the 90s, Independence Day.
Oh yeah,
And
I love that one.
Was really my first introduction to it, let's say, in a way that sparked interest and started that journey for me, because I really liked basically the way the language sounded, and I wanted to keep looking into that. My regular school system was, as I said, for the most part, forgettable, with an important exception. My high school, in my last 2 years of secondary education, my English as a second language teacher was different. She was tough. She never used Spanish in class.
Okay.
And so she challenged us to use English. And that was memorable. That was a striking difference from everybody else that had come before her. Everybody else basically relied a lot on translation. She was dead set against that. So kudos to her for that. And kind of in between that, or right before I get to meet this new teacher, I had attended an independent language school. It was an idea that my mom had first, but then I went along with it and I warmed up to the idea. And I liked it. It was a very different experience. All of these teachers, they had lived in the U.S. back in the 90s. They were all very fluent. And they taught me a lot. They definitely did. And so that, let's say, builds a foundation. And from then on out, I basically learned everything, or I taught myself everything else that I know. There wasn't anything, let's say, that is groundbreaking about the way that I did things. I basically followed what is now considered conventional wisdom. I did a lot of listening and a lot of watching, things that I was interested in. I was really into anime way back in the day, my late teen years and into my early 20s. And I kind of want to focus on that for just a moment, if I may, because I think that sometimes I haven't really been able to really flesh out how crucial that is to my language ability. I watched hours on end of anime dubbed in English.
Okay.
Because as you know, it is Japanese.
Yeah.
But I was never really interested, I guess, in pursuing that language. Using anime to improve my English, for lack of a better expression here, really solidifies everything that I had learned before. It makes that foundation rock solid. And it taught me loads of amazing vocabulary. And at the same time, all of this content was pivotal in confirming all of the accent acquisition that I had been doing personally, as in myself wanting to acquire an American accent. Because all of the actors were Americans, and everything that I learned through my self-study was confirmed through them. And not only that, there were also other benefits. Some of these actors were incredibly skilled in delivering lines, delivering emotion. And I tried to imitate the way that they spoke, not just simply the pronunciation or the other elements of an accent, but also how eloquent they were, how concise they were with their words. Even if it was only a script. When you have a script, you know when you listen to a good delivery. And I thought that they used to do that all the time. At least as far as I know, or as far as I'm concerned, their delivery was spotless. One last point I want to touch on here is that I know that you've heard this before, and that is the opportunity of access to interactions with native speakers. Where I used to live in Colombia, we had, for a few years, lots of Peace Corps volunteers. You might have heard about them. I think Peace Corps could be considered as a kind of a diplomatic mission of the U.S.'s Department of State, because they are affiliated with it. The idea is that you foster good relations between America and other countries by sending volunteers overseas and do all kinds of things. You can, for instance, find volunteers helping out with local agriculture or education. They were there in Colombia at the time only on their English for livelihoods program, which basically means that they were there to teach English.
Okay.
Just to boil it down to really their day-to-day thing there. And I met lots of these people. There was one who had this idea of starting a conversation club, originally conceived as a language exchange. That never really took off as an exchange because that fizzled out extremely quickly. It became an English-only conversation club, basically right out of the gate, as we say. I had a very active role in managing, promoting the event, getting people to, getting them interested in attending our sessions. We used to meet every Saturday for a couple hours in the evening at I don't know if you use this expression, you probably don't, but it was a mom and pop pizza place.
I know what you mean. Yeah, we don't specifically use that in England, but I understand the term.
The experience at the Conversation Club was wonderful. So many Americans that I got the chance to talk to and interact with, and also in a way to kind of, I guess, use as guinea pigs for my pronunciation training, because I also wanted to, as much as I could, test what I was learning and see if they could understand. And they did. I cannot remember a single time when that was not the case. And so it definitely, paid off. I think we're just simply being honest in saying that there isn't a one-size-fits-all approach or method, that you can use to get to a certain level of a language. We basically just acknowledge that fact. And, we can suggest ways, that you can try to, do the same thing that I did. For example, I know that you speak German.
Yes.
You speak quite well from what I heard.
Reasonable.
Have you ever had your German level certified?
No, actually. I have a GCSE in German. I got a grade A. That's probably equivalent to about an A2 level. I would say I'm somewhere between A2 and B1 at the moment.
Yeah, you're right at that threshold of an independent, I think, user is what they. I'm somewhat familiar with the CEFR.
If someone comes to you for accent coaching, let's say they can speak English quite well, but they have a very, very strong accent, their pronunciation in English is not very good. Where do you start with teaching the accent?
I would probably start from the point of view of something more basic, not specific sounds, but trying to start with a sense of the placement of a particular accent. In English, in this case, I would start there, and perhaps a measure of breathing exercises. I think that there's a lot to be said there, because in my experience, there is too shallow breathing involved, and there's not enough of a use of the diaphragm. Generally speaking, American English has a very low placement compared to other accents in this language. And it takes some grounding to make sure that you lower that placement. Typically, one way to do it in American English is to really draw out the sound "r," which is extremely common in this accent, because that is basically the anchor for this accent. I would start there. After that, I would do one of these diagnostic texts that are out there. They're called phonetically balanced reading passages, and you can get a sense of all the vowel sounds and the consonants, in the language. Once you have a foundation in your placement and your breathing, I would start looking at the individual sounds. And from there on, it's basically what the person brings to the table. I would like, and I feel much more, let's say, confident in helping other native Spanish speakers acquire an American accent. And that, for that demographic, typically you have some common challenges, such as voicing of consonants or THs, for instance. And I guess sometimes the individual vowel sounds, I don't think that those are terribly difficult to fix. It just takes more time to recognize them in conversation. And then when you, I guess you have a broader view of things, you realize that what really makes or sets accents apart is the vowel sounds.
Yeah.
The consonants are basically the same. There's very little difference there, with some notable exceptions. I'm sure you're aware of it. Yeah, that's where I would start. I would try to, of course, really personalize, tailor, the individual lesson or session to the person's needs. But I would definitely do that. I think that there's a lot to say about the foundation of breathing and placement.
Yeah, you're right. The vowel sounds are so different even between your accent and my accent. The American vowels, they are quite a lot longer. Yeah, I've noticed with the A sound in English, very often it's an A, and in American it's more like an R sort of sound. So that really does make quite a difference when you're listening to it.
Yes, it does. I wanted to maybe just give one more example for the audience to consider. There's something that happens in most American accents, but not all, and that is a raising of the A sound. So take a word like ask, the verb, specific word, has the exact same sound present, no matter what accent you're looking at. Perhaps, I guess, if you look at RP, they say like ask.
Yeah.
That's a little different. But you speaking, I think, Midlands English.
That's right.
Pronounce it the same way. However, when we have an A sound before an M or N consonant, there's a raising of the sound because it actually starts higher in the mouth. A is a low sound, then it turns into kind of like an air. And so you get man or plan.
I see.
That's a big difference.
Yeah, that's another one where it's a short A in the English accent. It would be man or plan.
There is one way that I like to describe that phenomenon, and that is that in most accents there, the A is clean, as in there is no nasality involved in it. There's a measure of it on this side of the pond.
Yeah. And then in English, of course, we have this odd difference between Northern England and Southern England, where sometimes the A becomes an R in grass, path, bath, rather than grass, path and bath, which is how we would say it in the north. Not sure why we have such a big difference. Do you find there's a difference between different regions of America? Do you have a distinctly different sounds in different areas?
Oh yes, definitely. It can get quite complex. Let me try to maybe hit on two things that are quite different. At least when you consider where I live and a big region of the U.S. called the South. There is a phenomenon of the diphthong I becoming smoothed, this is one way to put it, or let's say simplified, turning into an A sound, kind of sort of, in words such as time or fine. And so there you're very likely, although this is inconsistent, I guess, from one person to the next, tam or fan.
Yeah.
The very technical and boring term is that the diphthong loses its off glide. So we don't go from ah to I. Instead, it all becomes an A sound. Time and fan. I'm fine. Tell me what time it is, for instance.
Yeah.
That does not happen up here where I live. That's one significant difference that you can sometimes, pick up on if you have, if your ears are, I guess, fine-tuned enough. And then another one is an interestingly dividing line that occurs more in my region of the U.S., which is the Midwest, to use a very simple term. There is this thing that there is this isogloss or line that separates how you pronounce the preposition on. So, north of the line, we say on, and so for us, the preposition on rhymes with, let's say, like Thomas, the name, which is actually one of my children's names. So on rhymes with Tom. But then south of the line, it actually has something that sounds more like the vowel sound in the word thought, like the past tense of think. And so for them, they would say it on.
I see.
So that, in their case, rhymes with a word such as sauce or awesome, for instance. And I guess I'd like to give one more thing there. There is gradually, it seems to be the case, because I'm also interested in linguistics as a hobby. There is a merger of sounds that is occurring here. And so the distinction between ah and aw is being lost across the country. I maintain the distinction because that's what occurs here where I live. I didn't used to, actually. I used to merge the sounds, and basically, classic example, C-O-T, a cot, rhymes with the past tense of the verb catch, like C-A-U-G-H-T. I used to say cot as well. I differentiate the two now. Cot, C-O-T, and caught is the past tense of the verb. That distinction is being gradually lost. All languages tend to simplification, and so that's to be expected.
That's another case where we would have a shorter vowel sound in the English accent. We would have cot, and same with the name Tom. It's a short O sound in the middle.
Oh, yes. Basically what is happening there is that there is rounding involved. That does not happen here. Basically we have a back, an open back, unrounded vowel there. That's a big difference. That always tells, that always, in my mind at least, really sets apart lots of different accents. Because that happens there. It happens in Australian English as well. Here we're kind of, well, I don't know who you want to consider the odd one out, but yeah, we just don't do it that way here.
So when you first moved to the US, what level of English were you speaking at by that point? Were you fluent before you moved, or would you say you became fluent after living there?
I would say that I was already quite fluent before I made the move. I did take, a long time ago now, one of these international proficiency exams. Not TOEFL or IELTS. It's a different one, far less known. It's called the Examination for the Certificate of Proficiency in English. It's a test designed, interestingly enough, by the University of Michigan, which is my state. And I passed the test, and it's a test that is, at least, theoretically speaking, designed for a C2 level.
I see.
And so I have that certification. I took it when I was 18. I'm 35 now, so that was many moons have passed since. But definitely, I was already there before I made the move. There are benefits, of living in a country where the language is spoken. We could probably get into that some more later. But just to get to the question, yes, I already was before I came here.
Okay. Sorry, my face. I can't believe how hot it is. We're in a heat wave this week, which is very unusual. It's a very typically English thing to complain about the weather. It's always too hot, too cold, too wet.
You know what? I feel that we do the same up here. Doesn't matter what season of the year it is. There's always going to be something to gripe about.
Yeah.
Actually, if I may, because I like this topic as well. Maybe we can just talk about it briefly. I love to learn more of the differences between British and American English. But I want to actually focus on something very specific, if I may, just to not take too much of your time. I've done many other collabs on YouTube with other teachers, and there was one that I did last year in which myself and the host talked about some of the well-known differences between the two Englishes, but there was a portion at the end which was really fascinating, and that is to explore the different phrasal verbs that are used in one place but not the other.
Okay.
And so I actually want to ask you, do you use the phrasal verb muck in?
Not often, but I understand it. I would say if you muck in, you help out with something. Is that the same
What would
meaning?
you normally say? Yes.
We'd probably just say to help out. But I'd say most people probably understand muck in. It's just not used as often as to help out.
We use help out a lot, but also, I guess kind of equally, we're just as likely to use pitch in. Do you ever hear or use that?
Again, pitch in is one that I've heard. We watch a lot of American TV. Most people in England watch American TV of some kind, either movies or TV shows. Netflix is really, really popular here. It's full of American series as well as English ones. So it's really easy to access American TV. I'd say anyone of my age or younger, I'm 42, so anyone under 40 will almost certainly understand American expressions just from watching TV.
Yes. Isn't that interesting? That there's always been cross-pollination happening. But when it comes to the consumption of mass media, it is definitely lopsided. You guys there consume far more of our content than we do with yours.
Definitely.
Let me ask you one more. Maybe if I say this, maybe I'll think of another one. So that was one actually that I had never heard of until I did the research for our episode, muck in, because we just don't say that here. How about this one? If I say to you that we're going to hunker down, do you understand what that means?
Yeah, we're going to focus our efforts, I guess. So to hunker down, let's focus, concentrate, stop messing around, that kind of thing. I'd like to explain my definition here. When I heard hunker down, I thought it was equivalent to the British expression to buckle down. To buckle down means to focus and work hard and stop messing around. It's something parents sometimes say to their children if they're not doing so well in school. You need to buckle down and work harder. As you will hear in a moment, that's not the meaning. To buckle down and hunker down are two different expressions.
Normally what we use that verb for is to think of taking shelter during severe weather. I don't know if you have something like that over there, but here, at least in this part of the country, it is very common for people to go to their basements during, let's say, a tornado warning, to hunker down, kind of like ride out the storm, in a way.
Yeah.
Now, according to this research that I did, and it was all through ChatGPT, full disclosure, the British expression that it gave me, and actually the host confirmed that she uses that herself, is to batten down.
That's what I was just going to say, batten down the hatches.
Now, we can use that expression too, but always figuratively. But yeah, just batten down without the hatches part, we don't say it here.
Okay. Here's a uniquely English word that you probably don't use. It's really muggy today. I don't know if you've ever heard the word muggy.
I have.
Oh, you have? Okay, so maybe not absolutely. Only English.
It depends on how humid it is. The summers here are usually hot and humid.
Mm.
We could say muggy,
Yeah.
although I think we're more likely to simply say that it's really hot out, or it's boiling or blistering
Yeah.
out there, which is exactly what it feels like today.
Well, today is really muggy, and we use that when it's uncomfortably humid. So it's very, very hot, and it feels like the air is close. You could also say it's close. That means it just feels like everything is very warm around your face. There's no breeze, no wind. So it's uncomfortably hot and humid.
There's a very nice expression here in the US. When it's that hot and humid, you can say that it feels like you're swimming out there.
Yeah. We don't use that, but it's feeling like that today.
Yeah. There's actually one more thing, I guess. Let me ask you this quick question. Did you create your channel with a specific level of English in mind for your listeners, or are you trying to reach out to, let's say, all the levels out there?
I'd say my early videos were probably at a lower level than my later ones. I started at around A2 level. I did a couple for beginners where I was kind of looking at photos and pointing at different objects and describing them. Those videos weren't as popular as the more advanced ones. I have done a survey of my audience. Most of them are level B1 or higher. So that's the kind of level that I'm now aiming for. I do a few more simple videos, but most of my audience are a little bit more advanced.
Good, so they're gonna love me teaching them this word. When the air is muggy or the weather is muggy, another alternative that you can use, which is extremely high level and very sophisticated, if you ask me, is that you can describe the air as being syrupy.
Syrupy. I like that. Yeah, that's a good word.
Which is even worse than swimming.
Yeah.
It is one thing to say that it feels like swimming out there. It is another to say that the air is syrupy. It's so thick, you can actually almost feel it.
Yeah.
Like trickling down your face, for instance.
Yeah, I think we're almost there today. We're definitely swimming here, but I don't think it's quite syrupy yet.
Let's hope it doesn't get to that.
I hope not.
All right. No, that was all. That was really good. I want to be mindful of your time, and actually mine as well.
Yeah.
Let me see. Do you have any final questions or comments you would like to make?
Where can people find you online? Do you have a YouTube channel? I think you have Instagram, don't you? Would you like to tell everyone what your Instagram handle is?
Yeah, so you can find me on both Instagram and YouTube under the same, uses the term handle.
Yeah.
But you're going to find me on both platforms under the name The American Accent Playbook.
Okay. I'll put a link in the description box of this video so that everyone can find you easily.
Perfect. Thank you.
And thank you so much for your time. It's been really interesting to talk to you, and I appreciate you getting in touch.